Okay, so there's some dispute over the terms. Well, for example, presumptive versus potential. Well, I don't know what the difference is there. I mean, I think well, presumed means that you've already made the determination. Potential means you haven't made that determination. We'll get to the details on that here in a moment with our guest, Jay DeLancey of the Voter Integrity Project. And with that, Jay, good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. And
Good.
so apparently the State Board of Elections is trying to deal with and clarify how to handle non-citizen voters and voter rules. And I thought the first definition really throws me. Terminology was changed from presumptive non-citizen to potential non-citizen and applies only when no evidence of citizenship is available. You know, the issue of presumptive means then the jury's out. You're presumed to be a non-citizen, whereas potential says to me, well, you could be or you couldn't be, that sort of thing. But apparently, this discussion, this debate with the State Board of Elections got kind of heated. What in the world is all this about? I mean, why the dissension here? And did you play a role in this by any chance?
Well, first off, thank you for having me here, Lockwood. This all stems from Trump 2.0, but my role in it was that we established the procedure in our jury disqualification laws that was passed in 2023. Because this procedure, basically, with one exception, this procedure mirrors what's going on in that law. In fact, I have an objection to this, that bookmark that, and we'll get around to it. But let's start at the beginning. Potential versus presumptive. Mm-hmm. Unless the Democrats have a long-term litigation strategy, I think they wanted to win. But there might be some law of art or some term of art in court in the legal profession that's going to come back and bite us.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I could refer to my Black's Legal Dictionary to see what potential means versus presumptive. Anyway, I think that was just to rack up some wins. I want you. In the military we would say happy to glad, puppy to small dog.
Right.
You give a letter that you've drafted, and your boss would change puppy to dog. Hey, General, I was so delighted to see you last week. Change delighted to happy.
Yep.
It's just stupid stuff. So
right.
To me, that was one of those.
All right,
features.
But I'm just curious. What precipitated the need for a change in the voter rules related to non-citizens?
That is the real question, and I wish I had my story completed, but I'm working on a story on that now. What precipitated it was Trump 2.0, that the people in the Justice Department actually started listening, because the way the SAVE database was designed from its inception in 1987, the bureaucrats that built it made queries impossible. You had to have so much information to query the system, and including something called a alien. Let me get the exact term. The alien registration number.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an employer and you're hiring someone who is they're reporting I'm not here. I'm a registered alien in the country. This works. What it doesn't work for is people who sneak across the border and get a fake driver's license and are illegally here.
Right.
So that was a problem with the system. So it would have you search based on having that alien registration number. And so, what employer would have that if someone has lied and they've created fake documentation? The other problem with it was that you had to have all that information, so there were no fuzzy searches. You had to have all that information or not. And if you didn't have it, they made it really convoluted. And one thing you couldn't put in there as an employer was or even as a state agency, you could not put the Social Security number in of the presumed non-citizen or whatever we're going to call it.
Right. Potential.
Anyway.
Potential.
Potential. There we go. Oh, where is my political correctness? They're not presumed.
They're presumed.
Potential.
They're potential.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so the state, it was designed to be very difficult to enter, and you had to enter them one at a time, and there was a fee to it.
Oh, really?
Where they would charge anywhere a penny to. In the research I've done, they said it varied depending on the state agency. There was no rhyme or reason to it, and the agency was doing whatever they wanted to do. So under Bush, they raised the fee to a uniform fee, 50 cents a query. Now do the math. We got roughly 8 million registered voters. 50 cents a query, that's $4 million just to run through the voter roll once. But you'd never do it because to enter these things, you have to manually enter them. And there was no way to automatically load them, no bots, nothing, no possible way to do it in an automated way. And that is what Trump had an earful of once he returned to office. And the DOJ with Pam Bondi in there and Harmeet Dillon, they listened. And the election officials were saying, you got to make this usable. So what they did was created a way to do FTPs of the entire database and run the whole entire voter roll database through their database. I mean, this is modern data science. Why can't anybody do this? And they were operating based on an antiquated system that was now, 30?
Easily.
86, what's that, 15? Yeah, I'm doing public math. I think it was 40 years old. So it was, they're updating the system. And once they did that, it was clear what was going to happen. We're going to find a lot of non-citizens on this database. So states started implementing, rather than go to the legislature to get them to do it, which would never happen.
Right.
They just said, okay, we're going to adopt agency rules. And it pretty much goes in line with the law the legislature has already passed. Pretty much.
But,
so nothing wrong with it.
What's fascinating about this, and again, I'm having a hard time understanding the resistance, Jay.
Me too. Other than just ideological.
I mean,
Democrats don't want you to find non-citizens.
I'm stuttering here because I'm going, we want the system to work. I would think.
Well, define work.
I know.
What?
I mean, for the benefit of the legal citizens of this country, whether you're, whatever your political persuasion is, for the benefit of the system that we have in this country. And I mean, if I can see it now, the potential for it shifting to the benefit of the party that's currently in place, let's say the Republicans, then suddenly say, oh, well, wait a second, we can play this game as well. We'll bring in non-citizens and have them sign up. It makes the system unfunctional. That's just what... Well,
I think it's working. I think we're, if the Lord tarries, I think we're actually cleaning up. This is a dream come true. Ultimately, what we need is a national re-registration where everybody proves their citizenship in order to register to vote. We're not going to get there today, but this is, when we first started looking at this 15 years ago, we reached that conclusion that because of the 1993 law that Bill Clinton signed into office as his very first law, endorsed and written by Cloward and Piven, they flooded the voter roll with both fictional voters and with non-citizen voters and dead voters.
Dead voters,
flooded the voter rolls.
Yeah.
And this is where we're stuck. The voter. I mean, right now there's about 1 million or more. Actually, I haven't counted lately of voters that are inactive. And by inactive, regardless of what some people call it, what that means is the state has lost contact with that voter. They don't know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Did they ever exist? Are they dead? Were they fictional people? What are they? That's right now. That's actually, I'm sure that number's higher now, but that's the last time I looked, it was at 1 million. So that's because of that 1993 law. And since then, the federal government has tried different things to try and improve it. And this making the SAVE database accessible to election officials is a giant leap forward. The reason, I don't know if you heard Clarence Thomas this week talking about progressivism, but the progressive viewpoint is the more people who vote, the better. regardless of
right,
whether they're qualified.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit behind the Democrat opposition to it.
Well, it doesn't matter where, and by the way, they can vote anywhere in the world because automatically they're citizens of this country.
Yeah, they can email
ostensibly. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. You look at Mexico, they actually, if you're a Mexican living abroad, you have to go to a Mexican consulate and prove your right to vote before you're allowed to vote. We don't have that. We just let you email it in and say, hey, I'm kind of from North Carolina. I want to vote there.
Yeah,
my grandparents lived there, but I haven't lived there.
Exactly. I've never lived here, but I have my tree, my ancestry tree shows me that I was once connected to North Carolina, so therefore I get to vote North Carolina. I may be living in California and voting there as well too, but that's not material.
No, but I'm claiming I'm in England.
Yeah,
but I'm voting by way of Yahoo.
Right.
And I had a board member tell me, she goes, we got a vote through a Yahoo account, and I don't know where that person was. They said they were from overseas, but we don't know. We have no way of knowing because it's a Yahoo. It's not even from a U.S.
Amazing.
At least when it's military, it's a .mil.
Right.
But that's not required. It ought to be a .mil or a .gov. And if if you're overseas, you have to go to a .gov, or you have to prove
your
to the
residency.
people who control those domains who you are. Yeah, and
We're
residency is another issue, but we digress.
We're talking with Jay DeLancey of the Voter Integrity Project. But you said you had one little challenge to this.
Yeah, and I'm going to raise Cain over this challenge because it's a deal breaker. I mean, the left they're changing all these things, but Adam Steele from the state board put in one thing in there that blows it all up.
Oh.
And that is, it's a quote that says, unless the challenge voter voluntarily cancels, it says, if the county board is unable to confirm that the challenge voter received a notice of the challenge hearing, then the county board shall continue the hearing to a date no earlier than 10 business days from the date of the original challenge hearing. So the way I read that is if the so that means the county will have to send registered mail.
Right.
And if it's returned undeliverable, then they cannot confirm the challenge voter received it. And they can't hold the hearing. So if the voter has moved on, if the voter has left the country.
Left the country.
Yeah. Or if the voter just ducks service. Just doesn't.
I think the seriousness of this, Jay, and this and few other items we've talked about. We won't belabor this much more today, but Jay DeLancey of the Voter Integrity Project with us. The seriousness of this issue, I think, is most obvious in cases where, let's take for example, Senate District 26 in North Carolina Senate District 26, 23 voters, basically 22, upset the state Senate, ousting Senator Phil Berger, President pro tem of the Senate, after 13 years as the Senate leader in North Carolina politics. The situation in Carteret County, we had, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, 3 votes in a Morehead City mayor race. We've had races across the state, and I'm going to say across the country, that are narrowly decided by literally a handful of votes, 5 or less votes. When you don't have a legitimate voter casting a ballot in those circumstances, it totally destroys the system. It's not something that can be casually, this is Lockwood speaking, can be casually ignored. You wrap it up with that.
Yeah, it's truly the progressive agenda to destroy our country by flooding the voter rolls with people and cutting the entire credibility of the election.
Wow.
We're on to them. We've been watching this for 15 years. We're on to them. And I hate to even call them Democrats because there used to be reasonable Democrats. You can get Democrats who will go across party lines on the budget, but not on election law. This is an area where they really dig in, and they know the reason is it's existential. If they do, they're going to lose their, they're going to get primaried. This is the most important issue to them. So that's where we're at.
All right. I want to thank our guest, Jay DeLancey, for taking the time to be with us. Jay, before I wrap it up, I had the pleasure of listening to Mark Cook last week on the Hand Count Roadshow. The concept of hand counting, do you think it has potential in North Carolina?
It'll work easily, but in order to do that, you're going to have to make the precincts a lot smaller.
Smaller, that's right.
Because, and you got to do away with early voting. It really ties into the bigger picture of election day is election day.
Uh-huh.
And ultimately, when you'll know we have our country back when we get things like that back in, where people go back to the polls to vote and the politicians quit selling us on convenience, which is that's what they're using. That is the progressive idea is make it more convenient. That way more people will vote.
Wait a second. Yeah. I'm going to close with this comment. You say the progressives, yet you have been equally frustrated with conservatives, and that is particularly with Republicans. The timidity of seated politicians to really tackle this issue has been a little frustrating, has it not?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that it isn't. Not every Republican is a progressive.
Is a conservative.
Conservative. Yeah. Not every conservative. Yeah, typically every Democrat is a progressive, but not every Republican. Yeah, I really do believe that this is the problem. This is why we're having problems in the party and having to weed out progressive Republicans so we can fix this.
All right, Jay DeLancey, Voter Integrity Project, and vote. But what's the website, real quickly, Jay?
Come to my Substack.
Okay.
Jay DeLancey on my Substack. I need people there.
Okay. What is it again?
That's where we're posting new information.
Right.
It's my name on Substack.
Okay. Jay DeLancey.
Yeah, that'll work.
All right. Okay. Stay with me. I'll talk to you briefly off air, but thank you for taking the time to be with us this afternoon.